everyone, and welcome to another episode of Radiant Central, and I'm your host Natasha St. Michael, and thank you so much for joining me. So today I'm going to show you how to cook quinoa. It's just a basic how to cook it with water, and at the end of the video I will give some suggestions as to spicing it up or how you can use it within different dishes and things like that. But I just want to basically show you how to cook it up. A lot of people have heard of quinoa but are nervous to make it because they've never made it before and it just seems so foreign to them. So this is just an opportunity to see exactly how easy it is to actually prepare it. Quinoa is great. It's a grain. It's from South America, and it's one of the few grains that actually has quite a bit of protein in it. So it's good for vegetarians or for people that are trying to find an alternative to the other grains. It's just something else you can add into your diet that has a bunch of minerals in it. It even has a small little bit of omega-3s, and it's a great alternative to rice or to bread or pasta or other grain dishes. So do try it out if you haven't had it before. Okay, let's get started. What you'll need is 1 cup of dried quinoa. There's 2 different varieties of quinoa. There's a white one or a yellow one, and then there's a brown reddish one. This one is the white yellow one. So 1 cup of dried quinoa, 2 cups of water, a saucepan to cook it in, and you'll need a fine mesh strainer. I've got 2 right here because one of them's finer than the other, and I use the super fine one to actually rinse the quinoa before I cook it, just to clean it off. But after it's cooked, it expands to about twice the size. So that's when I use a larger fine mesh strainer to just strain the water out after it's been cooked. So if you've got 1 large fine mesh strainer, just use that. You don't need to use 2, but this is just because one of them's finer than the other. The first step is to rinse off the dried quinoa. I do this with all my grains, is just quickly rinse it, just because when it's packaged there might be just dust or whatever that's kind of inside the packaging after it's been processed. So it's always good just to rinse off your grains before you cook it. But quickly, you don't need to soak it or anything, just rinse it quickly. Okay, so I put it into the fine mesh strainer and I'm gonna rinse it under water. So here I rinse the quinoa under running water for like literally 10 seconds, just a quick rinse. And now I'm gonna put it in the saucepan with the water. So there's the quinoa with 2 cups of water. And now I'm just going to turn on the stove. Now I'm going to leave the pot on the stove for 15 minutes. Within that 15 minutes, the water is going to come to a boil and it's going to cook the quinoa. Okay, so here it is cooking up and it's just about ready. So we're now going to take the fine mesh strainer and we're going to strain the quinoa from the water over the sink. So here's the quinoa when it's cooked. As you can see, it becomes translucent in color. And I'll show you side by side what it looks like from being dried to being cooked, so you can see the difference. So over here you have the dried quinoa, and here's the cooked. So you can see the difference. It's much more fluffy when it's cooked, and I'll do a little bit of a close-up so you can get a better look. So here's the dry, and here's the cooked. As you can see, it's translucent. It has like little white tails on it. So that's a basic demo on how to cook up quinoa. I didn't season it or add any salt, nothing, because I just want to show you how to just cook it plain. A lot of times I just cook it plain and add it into other dishes and then season it up with the dish. So it's better sometimes just cook it up plain and then decide what you're going to do with it. You can add salt while you're cooking it. It's also great to cook it instead of water, cook it in a vegetable broth or a homemade chicken broth or stuff like that. You can make it more savory if you like. Like personally, I love to chop up green onion and I throw it in while it's cooking. And afterwards at the end, I will put in a little bit of olive oil as well. I like to put in the olive oil at the end after it's been cooked as opposed to while it's been cooking. Or you can actually make the quinoa into something more sweet or tart. A lot of people like to add in dried cranberries into the cooked quinoa. So you cook it up plain and then you throw in some dried cranberry or you chop up some figs. It's also really good. And also adding in nuts like pine nuts or cashew nuts or chopped up almonds. All of that you would do after it's been cooked, not while it's cooking. Quinoa is great to add into a salad. Toss it up into the salad or have as is or serve it up with other vegetables or with curries or with stews, all sorts of things. Like it's a very versatile grain, and I really suggest anyone, if you haven't tried it, try it because it has a great nutty flavor and there's so much you can do with it. It's also, I just want to mention too, that Once you do cook it, it's good, I would say, in the fridge. It could be stored for maybe 2 or 3 days. Then you want to eat it up by then. You kind of want it with any kind of food. You want to eat it as fast as possible. You don't want to be storing this stuff for too long. I'm going to write up the full instructions on how to cook it up. So go to my blog post, today's blog post at radiantcentral.com/blog, and you'll see all the instructions on how to cook it. It'll all be written up there. And yeah, that's it. Do try it out because it's a fabulous grain and it's just something different and it's super easy to prepare. All right, so have a fabulous day, everyone, and I'll see you again soon.